Felicitous greetings, fellow fanatics. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Adam the Fanatic. You may recall that a couple of years ago I did a preview of Together in Battle, a tactical RPG by Sinister Design. Earlier this month they released the finished version, so we're going to take a look at it to see how it stacks up. In Together in Battle, you'll take on the role of a nameless telepathic commander. As a Psy user, or Psy for short, you're capable of instantly communicating with those on the battlefield from a distance. Your task is to travel to the nation of Dese, a vassal of the Dundar Empire. Within Dese is a famed arena where gladiators from all over compete for glory. There, you must assemble a team of rookies and train them into champions to eventually help you return to your homeland and fight off the Vibra mining company that continues to capture and enslave your people. To begin your task, you'll need to hire a team. And when I say hire, I mean it quite literally. Not only do you have to pay them a signing bonus, but you'll also have to pay their salaries twice a month. You'll have to watch your funds carefully to balance paydays, purchasing and maintaining equipment, and funding trips to the trainers or infirmary. While battles in the arena are not to the death in the strictest sense, the weapons the gladiators use against one another are quite lethal. Whenever an ally is knocked unconscious, there is a chance that they will succumb to their wounds and die, at least on the default difficulty setting. And even if they do survive, they'll still take a major hit to their morale and be bedridden for at least a couple of days. Taking care of your team outside of battle is just as important as in battle. It's up to you to make sure they're not only paid, but also fed and happy. Enthusiastic warriors fight much better than begrudging ones. Although the game suggests hiring 6 gladiators to start, you can hire more. Early battles will be limited in size, but some later ones can let you field more. Besides that, you may want to swap in a pinch hitter while others are recuperating, especially since wounds and energy do not automatically recover after each battle. Each gladiator has a random personality assigned to them, which not only determines their dialogue, but can also affect some of their stats as well as how they'll interact with one another. If you have someone with the serious personality and another with the jokester personality, they may cause each other's morale to drop when they interact. Each gladiator is unique and may form friendships or even fall in love with a teammate. Characters also have 2 or 3 physical traits assigned to them, at least 1 positive and 1 negative, which give alterations to their stats. Sometimes characters will get random events tied to them. In my playthrough, one warrior requested to return to her homeland to claim a powerful weapon she inherited. Despite being a latecomer to my team, her blade carried her to become one of my most powerful characters. Another requested time off to visit his mother who had fallen ill. Unfortunately, my playthrough ended before I could get a resolution to this. There's a lot of little touches with plenty of effort put in to make the gladiators feel unique, even though they are procedurally generated. Unless you use the character creator to make your own, of course. Player-made characters still have to be hired like any others, but have a chance to appear at any time you're scouting new talent. And of course, each character will have their own combat class. Humans have the widest variety of classes. Axe fighters, spearmen, and swordsmen are different variations of your basic melee warriors, while cavaliers have higher mobility than other units, but tend to cost more in both wages and food since they have a mount to take care of. But they don't use horses, no. The mounts of choice in Dese are giant praying mantises. It's awesome. Architects can construct barriers and bridges mid-battle, or plant explosives which can be attacked to set them off. Bridge building is the ability to many pathways that some consider to be unnatural. Psy users come in a wide variety of different forms, including healers and different elemental specialists. But my favorite of the bunch is the kineticist, that specializes in pushing and pulling enemies, or sometimes even allies, at a distance. You may also come across golems, powerful mechanical constructs that are unmatched in physical durability, sprigates, a winged race that is not only capable of flying around the battlefield, but is also capable of exhaling breath weapons to hit multiple targets, shadowlings, a frail but mentally powerful race that will always belong to a Psyclash, or lizards, lizard people that are swift and nimble, but generally shun the use of armor on the battlefield. Upon reaching level 20, or if a unit is level 10 or higher and you give them a Book of Power, they'll promote to an advanced class, allowing them to further develop their abilities in a specific direction. It's important to note that while this was likely inspired by Fire Emblem, veterans of the series should not fear early promotions. A unit promoted to an advanced class via a Book of Power is given the same stat boost that they would have received if they naturally reached level 20 in their base class. And sometimes, special events or items will allow them to learn abilities that are normally completely outside of their wheelhouse. Battle itself is done in tactical RPG fashion, with turns alternating between the player and the AI. You'll usually get the first turn, but this isn't always the case. Most arena battles are simply to the last man standing, though you can surrender a fight at any time if you're worried about losing your fighters. This would probably be a lot more useful if I had Iron Man mode on, but since I had that off, I simply restarted battles if I did poorly. Regardless, TRPG players will feel right at home with the general concept of positioning characters around the battlefield and using their abilities to fight against enemies. Movement is very freeform in this game. By that I mean that on your turn, you can switch between characters freely, although once a character has used a skill, they usually won't be able to move after that. However, you can start movement with one character, then do another, then switch back to the first one if you need to. This will be important sometimes, as units cannot move through one another, not even their allies. Terrain is used to full effect in this game. Characters get both offensive and defensive bonuses when fighting at a higher elevation.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
And most obstacles in the game can be damaged and destroyed to open up new avenues of attack. On that note, many attacks can push a character away from its attacker. If they fall down to a lower elevation or hit against a wall, they'll take extra damage in the process. If they slam into another character, both will take damage from it. With Dese being a desert nation, most of the gladiators can't swim and will take drowning damage so long as they remain in water. And of course, being pushed into fire or spikes isn't fun for rather obvious reasons. On top of that, each character will face a specific direction. It's easier to attack a foe from the flank or the rear, though some classes are capable of quickly reacting and turning to face their attackers. Most martial units also have a counterattack, which will let them automatically strike a number of foes per round if they survive an incoming attack. Be careful, as even ranged units are sometimes capable of this. Arena fights will often have items hidden in chests, and sometimes fans will even throw goods onto the battlefield, but it follows Hunger Game rules. First come, first serve, and anyone can grab them. Also, it's important to note that any items left in the arena when the battle ends are forfeited, so sometimes you'll want to keep a weak foe alive to give yourself more time to scavenge supplies. Be careful though, because if a match goes on too long, the crowd will get restless and you'll net less prize money. Sometimes you'll also have special objectives. Instead of eliminating the enemy team, you may need to destroy an idol before time runs out, or protect one on your side. Sometimes you'll have a smaller cash prize pool, but more chests on the battlefield. And other times, you may have a fan request. These are optional, but fulfill their condition and you'll get some extra cash upon winning. But not all fights will take place in the arena. Sometimes you'll be ambushed by brigands. Other times you may need to protect someone from thugs or even break a prisoner out of their cell. These battles generally are a bit more straightforward in the sense that there's no rules like in the arena, though that also means you can't surrender. On the upside, you do automatically claim any loot remaining on the battlefield at the end of the fight in most of these cases, unless the objective is simply to survive and escape. Though I actually did manage to fight through a couple such scenarios. On one final note about gameplay, there is an in-game trading card game known as Psyclash. It's completely optional, but can provide a way to earn a bit of extra money through tournaments. It's a pretty simple game with 4 lanes, each of which can have 1 unit per player. On your turn, all your units attack, and if there's no opposing unit in the same lane, then your opponent takes direct damage. It's pretty simple, and I think it might be possible to miss out on it entirely, but it's a harmless distraction and adds a bit of variety to the game in the tradition of Tetramaster or Gwent. Presentation-wise, the game is pretty good. Battlefields do look a little plain, but character art is pretty well done, especially for the characters that are specific to the story rather than procedurally generated. The sprite work is pretty good too. There's only 2 instances of voice acting, the introductory cutscene and a single song with lyrics, both of which are well done. The soundtrack is nothing short of excellent. The story is actually pretty interesting. While pursuing your own goals, you end up getting entangled in a plot that threatens the whole of Dese, beginning with a mysterious stranger visiting your campsite one night. And now we come to the part of the review where we'll be discussing the plot. If you wish to avoid spoilers, please jump ahead to the time coordinates indicated on screen. Initiate temporal distortion now. Still with me? Then don't say I didn't warn you. The visitor claims to be none other than Audavon Hoth, the Maharaja of Dese. He informs you that an Imperial Praetor has been tailing you, and he wishes to know why. You reveal the truth of your mission to him, and he promises to keep Praetor Nero off your trail for the time being. Not long after your arrival in Dese, they hold the Festival of Ascendant Lights. After a day of enjoying the celebration, Maharaja prepares to address the crowd from his balcony, which allows you to confirm he was indeed the visitor to your camp, but is assaulted shortly thereafter. Although he survives the attempt on his life, he's badly wounded and bedridden. Not long thereafter, you receive a summons from the captain of the guard, Manbi Arashka. Since the Maharaja trusted you enough to visit you personally, and because you're an outsider with no political connections, and a telepath that can better read when others are trying to deceive you, he wants you to investigate the assassination attempt, including 2 people he already sees as key suspects. Malatos, the Royal Scanner Supreme who trains all guards to resist mind control and thus knows their weaknesses, and Prince Ajit Hoth, the Maharaja's brother who is next in line to take the throne if his brother were to die. Given how many random events are in the game, it's possible the story branches in ways that I don't know, but I'll recount how it played out for me. After questioning both of them, Prince Ajit tells you that his own investigators have found a lead out in the desert. You lead a raid on the mercenary camp, and eventually find a letter signed by Captain Rashka ordering the assassination. Things don't quite add up. The letter is on the person of a rather green recruit among the thugs who readily gives it up without even being questioned. An anonymous source eventually requests that you meet them to give you information. You arrive to find out that they've just walked into a trap, but if you protect them through the incident, they inform you that they're a royal guard that was on duty that night, and the attackers were no one that he recognized. As you continue your investigation, you eventually come to the royal armorer, as he's one of only 2 people with access to the armory and the assailants were disguised as royal guards. He's another key suspect. He allows you to scan his mind, which reveals his innocence, but also shows you that he's not as impervious to mind control as he might have hoped. This leads you back to Malatos, who is the only one in the palace skilled enough to break through the armorer's defenses. Of course, she denies the accusations and controls your mind to force you out of her office, but also informs you that she wants to look into something. You have the option to trail her, which leads you to a massive estate, second only in size to the royal palace, where Malatos meets with Dayan Indrajala, a blind woman who served as Royal Scanner Supreme before Malatos did. On her way out, Malatos catches and chides you for following her, but also tells you to meet her back in her office later. That night, Dayan visits your camp to implicate Malatos, telling you that she planned the attack on the Maharaja because she feels that he hasn't done enough to address anti-Shadowlane racism. You can also ask her about the other suspects. If you bring up Prince Ajit, she'll assure you that he dearly loves his brother and wishes him no ill will. However, when you visit Malatos to speak with her, she reveals it's none other than Prince Ajit's summer palace that Dayan is staying at, giving her ample motive to cover for it. She offers to create a distraction for you to search Ajit's summer palace for evidence. While there, you can find a journal from his childhood, revealing he's long reviled his elder brother and coveted his position as Maharaja. From there, you can attempt to initiate the endgame at any time, though the game will break the fourth wall to warn you that you should have a team of at least 10 characters ready, all promoted with an average post-promotion level of 4. You then get the chance to inform Captain Rashka of your findings, at which point he and a retinue of guards march into the throne room to arrest Ajit. There, you make your case before the royal guard. Depending on how convincing you are, some will side with you and others with Prince Ajit. I managed to persuade about half of them, making the first phase of the fight extremely easy. However, Dayan soon shows up with reinforcements, turning the tide back in the prince's favor. To make matters even worse, Malatos contacts you mentally and informs you that she and the Royal Scanner Corps are currently fending off a second attack on the Maharaja's life, but are unable to hold out for very long against trained mercenaries. Since I triggered this sequence a bit early, I had to rush things, using my kineticist to quickly push my infantry units to the front line, focusing down Dayan, and then turning as much firepower as I could against the prince himself, as there was no way I could take on the entire crowd in timely fashion. Eventually, the prince falls, and if you're swift enough, the Maharaja appears in the throne room shortly after his brother's defeat. As thanks for saving his life, the Maharaja vows to grant you one request. But you can't stay for long. He also warns you that even at this moment, Praetor Nero is approaching the palace with a retinue of Imperial guards to arrest you. The Maharaja uses a secret passage to let you escape, where you head back to camp. There, you reveal the truth of your purpose to the gladiators, and they agree to return with you to your homeland in order to help throw off the yoke of slavery. I am somewhat disappointed that we never actually get to see the results of said return, as this is where the game ends. But perhaps that will be the story for a sequel. Welcome back, Chronauts. You're just in time to join us for the conclusion. All in all, Together in Battle is an amazing experience. The variety of different classes you have available to you means that you have many different options, and the designer really went out of his way to make sure that it didn't just feel like a clone of Fire Emblem or Tactics Ogre, though fans of either series will undoubtedly feel right at home with this one. Early battles might feel a little samey, but this does change as the game goes on, especially as the gladiator circuit becomes a secondary focus to the main plot. Procedurally generated characters means that there is a limit to just how unique each of them can be. But despite this, they actually do a pretty good job of preventing them from all feeling like soulless clones of one another. The only major complaint I have is that the AI can be kind of dumb at times. I'll often see them use Sprint, which uses a bit of energy to increase movement speed, when they don't move at all. And one time, I even saw an enemy suicide by attacking a spiked barrier. Despite this one shortcoming, the game was a wonderful adventure from start to finish. One of the finest TRPGs that I've ever played. The art and music is great, the storytelling is excellent, and the gameplay is nothing short of brilliant. In conclusion, I find Together in Battle to be worthy of an astounding 9.7 out of 10. Together in Battle is currently available for PC via Steam. If you're interested in purchasing or learning more, links are included in the description. But what about you? What do you think of Together in Battle? What tactical RPGs do you recommend? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. If you really enjoy my work, please consider funding my channel on Patreon. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.